All right. All right. Just sent one out.
I'm sending one
Um,
now, Perk.
what was? Yep. Oh, I got to get the. I got to get in the chat here.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just retweeted you.
All right. Perfect.
Oh yeah, we incorporating Ken Dorsey into it.
Got to, baby. The bonfire is
Yeah.
burning. We got to.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
more wood. Yeah, I feel bad for Ken being a former UM guy who I covered for his freshman year, but
I was gonna ask if you covered him. Yeah.
yeah, his my last year was '99, so that was his true freshman year when Kenny Kelly he
Kenny
took over
Kelly.
at the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. Get my little towel here, my hanky. Oh wait, there we go. There we go. All right. Never know when that Chris Perkins sweat is going to appear.
Perspiring Perk.
The infamous Chris Perkins sweat. All right, I'm ready, baby. Let's do it. The Dolphins season resumes this week as the first place Dolphins host the Las Vegas Raiders. As big as that is, we know Hard Knocks debuts on November 21st, a week from today. So there's good news for the Dolphins on all fronts. Good news the way the schedule sets up for the rest of the season. Good news on the injury front with the expected return of rookie running back Devon Achane, easy for me to say. And good news on Miami's chances of winning the AFC East. Buffalo lost last night. Bills Mafia not feeling good today. Ken Dorsey, the offensive coordinator, fired. All kinds of stuff going on. What's up, Dolphins fans? I'm Chris Perkins, your South Florida Sun Sentinel Miami Dolphins columnist. That's David Furones, your South Florida Sun Sentinel Miami Dolphins beat writer. As a reminder, you can find this podcast on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, anywhere that you find your podcast. Your Miami Dolphins 6-3 in first place in the AFC East as they return from their bye week. Yeah, they're coming off that 21-14 loss to Kansas City in Germany, but look, that seems like that was 3 or 4 weeks ago, right? We're looking forward to maybe the most anticipated franchise finish in franchise history here, right? I mean, last year they were 7-3 after the bye, but this year at 6-3, they have the momentum of last year. They have health. They have the road paved to win the AFC East. There's a lot going on. Let's dive in. So, Furones, look, we've got to ask ourselves after last night, are the Dolphins destined to win the AFC East? I mean, Buffalo, look, at 5-5, and they face a tough schedule the rest of the way. I mentioned that Ken Dorsey has been fired. As we look at the schedules here, only 3 of Miami's final 8 opponents have a winning record. 4 of the final 8 are below 500. One is at 500. Buffalo, which lost to Denver last night, they've probably got at least 3 additional losses, right? They've got Philadelphia, they've got Kansas City, they've got Dallas, and they've got Miami. So I mean, it's a really tough road for them. Furones, I mean, realistically, I mean, is this the Dolphins' destiny at this point? Like, aside from injuries, under normal circumstances, they can't lose the AFC East, right?
The way everything's looking, the way it's lining up for them, the way the Bills have struggled. I mean, I think right now, after this bye week, it's time for the Dolphins to pull off a 5-game win streak at least of the likes of the run that we saw in the middle of last season. under McDaniel. So you got the Raiders next, at the Jets on Black Friday, at Washington, Tennessee on Monday Night Football at home, and then home against the Jets. Maybe Aaron Rodgers is back for that one. I know now the reports are he's trying to target a mid-December return, and it's tough to sweep any divisional opponent, but the Dolphins did it already to the woeful Patriots. But let's see it against the Jets, who still have a very stout defense and can keep games close. But without Rodgers, that offense is awful and is liable to give up as many points as the defense. Even if you face A-Rod in his first game back, there still should be some acclimation period where the offense won't immediately click. So if the Dolphins continue to beat the teams they should, which for all the criticisms that they've had against the stronger opponents, all the criticism you can send their way, they have done exactly that, beat the teams they should. Combined with Buffalo's struggles that we just witnessed sort of a pinnacle of that on Monday Night Football, losing at home to the Broncos, and then their tough remaining schedule. If you win those two against the Jets, then you've already knocked them down, and they can't catch you. So you can almost clinch the division by that final 3-game stretch that is a little bit more challenging once it gets started with the Cowboys on Christmas Eve and at Baltimore and then Buffalo, if they still even have it together by then, by Week 18.
Yeah, it's incredible, Furones. It's incredible the way things have turned in the Dolphins' favor. And before we go any further, look, we always like to talk to our people in the chat, recognize them, thank them. Noop 94201, Patrick Vecchio, Grandizer 12, Dave Harbor. Welcome, Rifleman 165. Welcome to everybody. Ender Fireplays. YT, welcome to everybody, man. We like to hear you all in here. Real quick, Furones, Patrick Vecchio is asking, what's the status of Robert Hunt and Berrios? I'll take Hunt. We saw Robert Hunt yesterday at practice while working on the side with a trainer while everybody else was practicing. He's got the hamstring injury. He looked good for just going through drills. There was no, with a trainer, there was no limp, no noticeable limp or anything like that. So my guess, the way that they've been conservative with injury returns, is that Rob Hunt will probably sit out this week, no matter how he looks to us as reporters, to our naked eye, and then they would bring him back for the Jets game. What are your thoughts on Braxton Berrios, Furones? I mean, we know that they brought in receivers. They signed Anthony Schwartz, I believe it is, the local kid. But what are your thoughts on Berrios and how the receiver room looks right now?
Yeah, we first saw him pop up on the injury report that Thursday in Frankfurt. I was going to say Kansas City, but it was at Kansas City in Frankfurt, Germany. And then, but he did return to that very next practice. Yeah, I mean, he did get this bye week to try to get through it, hopefully. So maybe you do see him back. But the Dolphins did add a local speedster, Anthony Schwartz, a guy who I covered, actually, when he was at American Heritage High School, winning back-to-back state championships and dominating track and field. And with his 4.25 40 time, I think he ran when he was coming out of the draft. He is an elite speedster. I mean, world class. He held the under 18 world record in the 100-meter dash when he was down here. So a nice addition, and another South Florida guy who's also posting his pictures when he was a kid as a Dolphins fan, like we saw with Mike White, with Braxton Berrios earlier this offseason when they hopped aboard. So and Rob Hunt, Mike McDaniel did mention week to week sort of with him. So when he did travel to Germany, despite the hamstring injury, you thought maybe you would see him get into practice, but he was just watching on the side, and so you didn't get to see him. He got the bye week, hopefully, to get healthy. So as the Dolphins look to get about as close as they can to full health, with maybe Devon Achane coming back off IR. You already got Teron Armstead back in there too.
Yeah, and we'll talk about their health. I wanted to get back to the Jets game real quick, Furones, because look, to me the opponent is almost irrelevant. I don't like that it's a road game on a short week. And then you add in that it's a division opponent, a team that knows you very well, a team that plays good defense. And I think it's going to be a close game. The Dolphins should win. But to me, it doesn't matter if you're playing Houston or Carolina or the Jets or Kansas City. That the road game on a short week, Furones, that's just a very scary formula. And look, I can overlook the Raiders. The Dolphins can't, right? So we can talk Jets, but that's a scary formula, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the data shows it. The statistics show all the Thursday night games. I mean, the home team has a huge advantage in those historically. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but Black Friday with a holiday on that Thursday, yeah, there's a number of distractions. To add on to everything, Hard Knocks is their cameras are rolling at
Right.
Dolphins headquarters. So, yeah, I remember Mike McDaniel saying the Dolphins maybe lead the league in potential distractions when they were coming off the Patriots win. So last time we saw them at home, as they were getting ready to travel to Frankfurt, they were about to face the defending Super Bowl champs. They know Hard Rock is on the other side, or Hard Knocks is on the other side of the bye. They were playing at Hard Rock, and that this team has been able to sort of handle some of those distractions and the potential downturns that could hit them. So that'll be another one. It's going to be tough. It's a road game in the division and against a very strong defense, which we've seen keep them in a lot of games despite how bad that offense is.
Yeah. So look, when we're looking at the Dolphins' remaining schedule, you've got that game at the Jets. We just talked about that. You got the Dallas game. It's at home. We've discussed Buffalo. That's the finale. You go to Baltimore on New Year's Eve. And look, Furones, I respect Baltimore. I love what Baltimore does as far as playing defense and running the ball traditionally. But this is a team that has had a fourth quarter lead in every game this season, and they're still blowing late game leads even at home. We just have to go back to last year, right? When the Dolphins put 28 on them in the fourth quarter and to see what they do. And so this is a trend with Baltimore. So look, I'm very wary of Baltimore and Lamar Jackson and what that defense is doing, but you're always in the game against Baltimore. So when you look at the Dolphins' toughest games, the Jets is a scary one. The Jets game on the road because short week and you're on the road. Dallas is a tough one, but it's at home. Baltimore is, you've got a chance there. And then Buffalo, who knows where their mentality is going to be. I mean, if the Dolphins stay healthy, right, Furones, they almost can't lose this division title, right?
Yeah, yeah, and the Dolphins know about the Ravens blowing fourth quarter leads at M&T Bank Stadium. I mean, they came back from 3 touchdowns down in the fourth quarter just last year. That could be a flex option, Week 17. Yeah. Packers Vikings right now is the Sunday Night Football game slated for Week 17 on New Year's Eve. Also, Bengals Chiefs. That Sunday, so that's another option there. So yeah, you look at Baltimore, that second to last week of the season, and then Buffalo, where you thought, hey, after the Dolphins, they started 3-0, lost that game at Buffalo. Well, could it be where the division is on the line for that Week 18 game at home? And boy, the Bills keep losing games that and then even being very unimpressive in the games that they have won, like what was it, against the Giants and against the Buccaneers at home. Yep. Finally, I tweeted that late game defensive strategy of just interfere like hell on any pass, it finally backfired. They were actually called for one this time, but that team, I mean, they're out of sync. Even you have Trayvon Diggs now, Stefan's brother. He's his public mouthpiece, just voicing what we know, what we think, and we actually kind of know Stephon Diggs is feeling internally. He's even outwardly expressed it on the sideline with Josh Allen, and Josh Allen himself, he continues to be a turnover machine for as gifted as he is physically with his tools. Just poor decisions plaguing him and accuracy issues with some throws that they're just missing the dartboard entirely. But well, he always looks otherworldly against Miami, so you still got to watch out for him Week 18 if it comes down to it.
I know it's incredible, right? It's kind of like the Buffalo is Miami's kryptonite, kind of like the Tom Brady coming to Hard Rock. That was his kryptonite, right? Against Ryan Tannehill of all people.
Oh, against whatever quarterback he faced. It was Jay Cutler one year. Right. Well, there was Jay Fiedler at the start of Tom Brady's run.
Yep, incredible. Incredible. Hey, Furones, and to put a bow on this now, we're talking about the Dolphins. Are they destined to win the AFC East? We talked about them staying healthy. they're getting healthy, Furones, right? I mean, Armstead back, Xavier back, and so we saw the X and Javon Holland and Jalen Ramsey back there in the secondary. You've got Nick Needham back to play the dime along with Cater Kohu at the nickel. Jalen Phillips is healthy. We've seen him and Bradley Chubb going off recently, right? On the offensive line, you still got some issues with Rob Hunt and Isaiah Wynn and Rob Jones all being injured. Teron Armstead is back, though. You're getting Devon Achane back. So, I mean, this is help probably. I don't know if this was healthier than they were for game one. I would have to look. But this is very promising. It's just one more thing going in the Dolphins' favor, right? I mean, the health that we know that last year they're 8-3, and then they have some major health issues, and they finished 9-8. At this point, it doesn't look like this season is going to go that direction, although, you know, you never know. But things seem to be trending in the right direction health-wise, right?
Yeah, right now you're getting more guys back than hopefully you end up losing. So you're always going to have to be wary of the injury bug, and sure, yeah, the Dolphins do have a lot of very valuable players that some are injury prone, and that's a chance that the Dolphins' Chris Greer has willingly taken, and he's publicly expressed that he is not as concerned about it as many people are, and oftentimes he's been able to get guys at a discount because of it. But that's why this is part of the reason why they did not go and make a big trade deadline acquisition is they're getting back so many players that these are the greatest trade deadline moves that they've made is just the players that they're naturally getting back without giving up anything. Jalen Ramsey finally debuting for the team the final game before the trade deadline. Xavier Howard coming back, so he debuts with him. That combination debuted that very next game. And Teron Armstead making his return that week. Devon Achane is about to come back. So a lot of things now working together in their favor.
All right, Furones, let's talk Hard Knocks because it starts this week. And the big question is it going to be a distraction? The first show airs a week from today, November 21st at 9 p.m. on HBO. The Dolphins talk about how calm it is, and I was tweeting about this a few minutes ago, and the players talked about it fairly extensively yesterday of just how this environment under Mike McDaniel is so much more conducive to success than the previous environment. And I think it was Jalen Phillips who was saying, you know, you're not worried about being yelled at. The assistant coaches aren't being yelled at. And that's because there's not a whole lot of pressure coming from the top that filters down to everybody. Is Hard Knocks going to be a different kind of pressure? Is it going to be that you can't be yourself because those cameras are intrusive and they're always on you? I don't think that it affected the 2012 Dolphins. I was there for that, and the cameras were there. We were aware of them, just like we were aware of the cameras yesterday at Mike McDaniel's press conference and the players' press conference. They came into the interview room yesterday, so you can't ignore the cameras. The question, Furones, is, are these cameras going to shake this Dolphins team? What do you think?
I don't see it becoming a distraction. I think the locker room is so strong, and everyone has said it for any moderately controversial player Miami has added, whether it's a Robbie Chosen or Chase Claypool. Everyone sort of tries to play it up. Well, now could this be what breaks the locker room? And none of them have become a distraction. This locker room is solid, so they've brought on new players, and those players have ingratiated themselves with the locker room. This is a different type of deal that you're working with, but it's only really a danger if there are skeletons in the closet that would be a concern anyway, just ones that we wouldn't know about publicly yet, but then they finally become exposed. If you have nothing to hide, then there really shouldn't be any concerns because if you're doing things the right way, if players and coaches are being themselves amongst each other, then they shouldn't be worried that, okay, now cameras are rolling too. So whatever I am showing could be seen by the masses. So it's just a matter of if there is something that we would have found out that would sort of bring the team down later on anyway, we're just going to find out with the cameras rolling and then maybe be able to link them together instead of like you just sort of naturally see, oh, well, this team broke down late and there was something going on behind the scenes, but we just didn't know about it.
Yeah, hey, and Pretty Boy from the chat chimes in, we're made for the cameras, baby. LOL. That's true. I mean, Tyreek Duke Riley. I mean, we've been through this. Like Kendall Lamb, even like they've got so many fascinating people on this team, just so many personalities that you look at them. Rob Hunt. I mean, Rob Hunt is at like right, and then Rob Jones. I mean, you can go all up and down that offensive line. A guy like Teron Armstead. I really think that Tua is going to be like a background concern for personality. I think he might be more game preparation, right? And see how I'm not sure that Tua is going to let those cameras in his house anyway. To see, yeah, see,
that's not him.
Yeah, exactly. That's not Tua's style. But let me ask you this, Furones, and this comes to us from Dave Harbour, and when we talk about pressure and things like that, Dave Harbour asked who is currently on the active roster that is not playing much but should, and is Channing Tindall a bust? And so, if and really you could even take this from the standpoint of if you're not playing very much and you think you should, would anybody air that to Hard Knocks? Would let like a Robbie Chosen say who you might say, yeah, he should, he's inactive, or maybe a Kelvin Joseph. Do you think anybody would act, I don't want to say crazy, but uncharacteristically and kind of go to the camera with some kind of gripe? Do you think?
Yeah, I don't see Robbie Chosen doing that.
No.
We know some of his reputation in the past, but I think he's just very grateful, thankful to be in South Florida, his home, and he likes being a part of this team. He's very quiet, mild-mannered from what we've seen here with him in the Dolphins locker room, so I don't see that from him. I don't know Kelvin Joseph well enough on a personal level to be able to identify if he would be that type of player, but obviously, I mean, he was sort of down on the depth chart with the Cowboys already. So when you're traded 1-for-1 for a Noah Benogany, who was in a similar situation with the Dolphins, I think you kind of understand sort of where you are in your career at that point. So I don't think, and especially in the secondary where now you have Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Howard, Kader Kohou in the slot, Nick Needham available to play the dime, and then Eli Apple, who was playing a significant role, will now be an injury replacement reserve, and you're going deeper onto the depth chart. Perry Nickerson is on the practice squad now, right? They released him and then brought him back to the practice squad. So that's a lot of depth at that position where I think you would be self-consciously aware of where you stand. And then also Channing Tindall was part of that question. I'll just say, there are no busts at pick number 102. He was a late third-round pick, compensatory round selection. So, I don't see. It's just because he was the first selection for the Dolphins in that draft, but he was a very late third-round pick. Could have easily been a day 3 guy. So I don't think anyone in a draft where there were a first and second round picks, or even an earlier third-round pick, anyone would call him a bust for what he has shown so far. It's just a matter of that draft. The Dolphins didn't have many selections, so the spotlight was kind of on him for a guy who was chosen with a triple-digit number selection. So I know he's not a bust. Just a lot of players in the middle of the draft don't pan out, and hey, maybe he still can. Vic Fangio has said he still feels he has potential, and I think Anthony Campanelli, linebackers coach as well, but just obviously he's not going to play in this linebacker core right now with Jerome Baker, a veteran, the way he's been in different Dolphins defenses. David Long coming along, Andrew Van Ginkel has incorporated some inside linebacker play, and Duke Riley's there as well. So obviously he needs some guys to go down, honestly, if he's going to see the field defensively.
Furones, by the way, let me say this. I know the sun is like coming in and hitting my face at different angles. I'm not technologically advanced enough to prevent that at this point, so it's just going to have to be on my face. Grandizer 12 says the Furones beard is also made for the camera, so you got that. Also, here's something interesting from the chat. Yeah, look at that, baby. Look, here's something interesting from the chat from Jerry Lawler. Will the NFL let the refs favor the Fins for the purpose of entertainment? Now, everybody likes to complain about that Philly game when it was 10-0. Do you think the refs? I mean, I don't think so. I don't think scandal goes that far to Hard Knocks and selling the NFL like that. But it's interesting. And for entertainment purposes with the refs, do you think they want to get on Hard Knocks?
Well, it might make for better television if we're going down conspiracy theories. If the refs continue to be against the Dolphins all season, this could be a bad sign. That might be the real distraction, is that the refs they're aware that the Hard Knocks cameras are on them, and they're just going to keep sticking it to Miami and the Dolphins fan base. And then there's going to be more games like the 10-0 penalty disparity that you saw in Philadelphia, where there's just going to be officiating atrocities across the board that are going to go against the Dolphins to see how those Dolphins players react under that kind of adversity. But Perk, before we wrap up this segment, I want to relive a little bit of last time because you covered the team during that one. I remember watching sort of, but casually. My memory it wasn't so great. What were some of your memories of the Dolphins on that? Was it 2012 Hard Knocks? I recall Joe Philbin didn't look great. There was Chad Johnson or Ocho Cinco being his wild self. Chris Hogan, 7-Eleven.
Yep. Yeah. The Chris Hogan thing. God, who is that tight end? Les Brown. And him and his wife were. They had some little saying that they had, but they were kind of mini celebrities, like you said. Chris Hogan. Chad Johnson was popping into coaches' meetings in their offices, and the coaches are looking at him like, what? He also got under Joe Philbin's skin and raised his eyebrows when he said he wanted to be a porn actor after his football career was over. But they showed Joe,
history repeating itself. Tyreek Hill today. That's going to be played up on Hard Knocks.
That might be. They showed Joe Philbin as kind of a neat freak. Like picking up trash on the field. That was one of the big things. I think he was like picking up a gum wrapper off the practice field or something. But it was, they showed Ryan Tannehill, well, here was an interesting thing because I was doing a radio show with Armando Salguero at the time. And so, at the very last segment, they showed David Garrard hurting his knee. And Ryan Tannehill, that's how he became the starter. By the way, I have respect for Tannehill. He came here. He wasn't going to be the starter. David Garrard hurts his knee. Tannehill takes the job and never gives it up. He goes to Tennessee where he's not the starter. Marcus Mariota gets hurt. Tannehill takes the job and never gives it up. So I do have respect for Tannehill. But anyway, I digress. So, and nobody cares about that anyway. So, but they showed No, thank you, Furones. They showed that, I think, as the final segment, and they told us on the radio show they were going to do a Richie Incognito segment, and this was before Bully Scandal. This was when Richie was just like known as one of the dirtiest players in the league, but that got left on the cutting room floor because of the David Garrard knee injury, and then Ryan Tannehill taking over as the starter. So, yeah, it was fun, though. It was fun.
Cool.
Yeah. So, all right, baby. Well, that brings us to the Furones bonus. That's right, the Furones bonus. Here we go.
Bonus.
There we go, baby. There we go. So here's the one for this week is best locales that I've ever covered a game. So, Furones, you just came back from Germany where the Dolphins played the Chiefs at Deutsche Bank Park. So in honor of that, the 5 best places, 5 best venues for any reason that you've ever covered a game. And for me, in no order, it's Cotton Bowl, Orange Bowl, Wembley Stadium in London, Madison Square Garden, and then one of the old places, Astrodome, Candlestick Park, Oakland's Alameda County Coliseum. I never did Boston Garden, Wrigley Field, Tiger Stadium. I think it's too new for me personally to include SoFi or Jerry World or the Viking stadiums. Locally, I do like Hard Rock, the Casilla Center / AAA, and Mark Light. Look, best milkshake in the world, right? And I've never done a game at Traz Powell or some of the local legendary local spots where you see Hall of Famers starting their careers. But Furones, what are your sites? What are your venues?
Okay, well, so as cool of an experience, first of all, as it was to travel overseas and take in an NFL game in another country, I can safely say I'm not putting Frankfurt's Deutsche Bank Park in any top 5. It was a mess to get in there. It's in the woods. The road I got dropped off on, which was still much closer than the trading station was, it was far from the media entrance. I had to go to get in through. There were dirt trails to walk through in dress shoes and a suit. And it rained earlier. I did have an umbrella, though, because I was prepared for that. But I was walking through mud, and then there were no elevators to get up to where the press seating was from the media workroom, which was downstairs. Went up and down like 5 flights of stairs multiple times throughout the day. They ran out of food pregame to feed the media. So, and then there was just too long of a line at every concession stand, so that wasn't an option really either. Luckily, I always pack a protein bar. It was cool to be outside, feel the atmosphere, but cold fingers sometimes too. Typing, although the roof is closed, it's also open air, so some of that 50-degree Fahrenheit weather was getting through there. So that made for some adversity, like a lot of football players and coaches like to address that I was working through over there. I love the Orange Bowl. I never covered anything in the Orange Bowl. It was taken down my senior year of high school, but I do remember checking it out plenty, visiting plenty growing up. Going to I want to go to a lot of Big Canes games, but maybe some of the smaller ones back then. Madison Square Garden, I did go. I covered. NIT finals when UM was in it, and a high school basketball tournament, national, where local teams were in it as a freelancer before I got hired by the Sentinel. That I paid my own way just because I wanted to visit New York and I stayed with a friend at his apartment. So I did also on an earlier trip see a Knicks game at Madison Square Garden. So that's really cool. So just because of the allure of MSG, I got to put that up there. I'm still a relatively young sports writer, and I spent a lot of years covering mostly high school sports and recruiting. So a lot of the venues I've seen would be some of the local high schools, which you're not really going to put in any top five. But I'm going to lean mostly on the NFL stadiums I've visited because even on 2 years on the UM beat, the year I had trips to Clemson and Virginia Tech was COVID, so they weren't filled to capacity. Doak Campbell was cool. Maybe I'll combine those venues as just my college football experience covering the ACC. So those were cool. I had been to the Swamp visiting while I was in college. I had high school friends there and checked out a game. That was a good atmosphere, but never covered. So NFL venues, I really liked Philly a few weeks back just because their fans at the link, they make for a great atmosphere. Right. MetLife Stadium, I always enjoy because when I take a ride over to North Jersey from the city, you see the Manhattan skyline once you get through the tunnel over to North Jersey, and The Sopranos is my favorite show of all time. So it feels like you're in the opening credits whenever I wake up those mornings and I ride over to the stadium to check out a Dolphins Jets game. So I'm looking forward to that in a few days, even though I have to cut my Thanksgiving with my family early to take an evening flight to get out there before the Black Friday game. So other ones I'll say is SoFi is state of the art. Absolutely incredible. Got to see it the last 2 years. And then next year, Dolphins play over there at the Rams. And Allegiant Stadium as well in Vegas. Soldier Field, very nice just from the historical context. We were there early November last year. And it was very pleasant, cool afternoon in Chicago. Wasn't too cold. So I might say, MSG is up there. MetLife, I love that drive over. And those two, SoFi and Allegiant Stadium, and I'm cutting out the local ones too. Like Mark Light is great to catch a baseball game, but I'm talking about what I travel to. But you know what? To include my high school coverage career, I'll make sure I get Travis Powell Stadium in there because you always feel that legendary vibe, and when it's like a Northwestern versus Central game, and both stands are full, both sides, because they have very large seating areas on each sideline, and when they're both packed and the bands are playing nonstop and the chants are going the whole time, also the drive-in, all the tailgating, it's just such a vibe. That's definitely one of those you have to say.
I love high school football. I covered it in Texas, so we covered some big games at some big venues, just venues that 10 seated 12,000 and would sell out. So I always like to include the high schools in that list. So all right, well that's our Furones bonus. Let's migrate first of all to the chat before we get on to our next one. But our next segment, we can do that. It's what's the best story on the Dolphins right now. And there's a lot of positive vibes about them, with their Super Bowl hopes and being in first place in the AFC East. Devon Achane's return. The defense is coming together. The schedule is favorable. But let's go to the chat for Pete's takes, and let's mix this one into the best story on the Dolphins. By the way, our poll on the will Hard Knocks be a negative distraction? 64% say no, 35% say yes. So that's where we are on the poll right there on Hard Knocks. But
it's hard to we don't have the sample size in season for this. It's they had the Colts on it 2 years ago, Cardinals on it last year. This is the third time. So those teams weren't on the level of this Dolphins team. So I think the Dolphins are sort of the guinea pig for this in season Hard Knocks. Yeah, we're about to find out.
Yeah, a team with playoff hopes.
Right.
Let's and by the way, Hard Knocks that release that they sent out, the PR release said they're going to be with the Dolphins through the conclusion of their season. So if they go to the Super Bowl, they're going to be with them. That's how I understand that
Right.
throughout the playoff run, Hard Knocks is going to be there to document it. So that's going to be interesting. Pete's takes when we're talking about the best stories on the Dolphins. Is anyone worried the same late season woes happen again with Tua and this offense like it was last December? And where I'm going with that is I don't think so. And I think that's part of the best stories on the Dolphins. I think this offense has matured. Now, I say that, and we know that the big games, right? 20 points at Buffalo, 17 at Philly, 14 in Germany against Kansas City. The offense is going backwards. But Furones, I kind of feel that the maturity of this offense and the health, and this is the second year, I do kind of think that that's one of the better stories. I would be shocked if this offense went down the tubes like it did last year. And I know Tua was hurt for part of it, but Tua was there for the 49ers game and the Chargers game. So the best, let's take that first. What are you worried about the offense, and is that part of a good story going on with these Dolphins?
No, yeah, I think for the same reasons, the maturity level, second year in this offense, and Tua, for the first time since he's been in high school, has the same offensive coordinator, 2 years running. Mike McDaniel leading the offense as a head coach. He's got him for a second straight year. Offensive coordinator Frank Smith, quarterbacks coach Darrell Bevell, the continuity there. And really, I mean, when you look at last season's 5-game losing streak, okay, at San Francisco was very tough in its own right, just on its own, especially just that defense and playing on the road over there. The Chargers game is really that one that stood out. And then you kind of avenged that one week 1 of this year, going back into SoFi Stadium and winning that week 1 in a shootout type of game where the offense was tremendous. And then really that Buffalo game right after in the snow, the offense sort of bounced back for the most part. So they lost that one. What was it, 32-29? It was a score like that. The offense did its part in that game. So then that's when that's when you had the Green Bay Packers game where the offense was working fine up until Tua took the hit that we later found out was a concussion. And then by the fourth quarter, that's when he threw those 3 interceptions. So I feel like it wasn't really that big of a run where the offense was struggling so much. It was really that Chargers game, 49ers game. They hit the big play early, and then that's just a tough defense anyway. And then they were kind of right back on track for Buffalo, and the start of the Green Bay game. Didn't have Tua when they lost in New England on January 1st, when it was Teddy Bridgewater and Skylar Thompson finishing that one out. So I'm not too concerned about the offense, especially now this isn't as tough of a stretch right now that they're hitting as you saw it during that same run last year. So now Jets defense is very strong, but just the overall schedule, I think I was mentioning earlier, I'm looking at this team like now is when you should go on a run. You're 6-3 now. Go reel off these next 5 and get to potentially 11-3. If you end up losing one, yeah, it's tough to sweep the Jets. Maybe you're 10-4, but go to that final 3-game stretch at 10-4 or 11-3 already, where maybe you've already clinched the division or you're just on the verge of it. That's what I want to see this Dolphins offense do.
All right, let's go back to the chat real quick. We want to welcome in Dana Boyce. Dana, well, we'll go back. We'll welcome in a couple of others. Franklin Stubbs, welcome to Great Fins fan. Welcome, good to see you. Furones, Dana comes in and says, "Hello, everyone. Ding dong, the witch is dead." Is that premature? Is Buffalo dead? They kind of are. We talked about who they have left. I'm still wary of them in that finale. Are they dead? They fired Ken Dorsey today. Are they dead? Can we say that?
Boy, not dead, but I mean,
dying.
Yeah, they're drowning. They're struggling to tread water right now, and we've seen the signs of it. How close those home wins were to the Giants and the Buccaneers. Eventually, that's you keep playing with that fire, it's gonna burn you. And so it did against the Broncos, and now Ken Dorsey is the fall guy. He's the one that's fired, and it's been a lot of different things. Josh Allen hasn't been competent a lot of times. A lot of these turnovers are just really just atrocious football. And then even James Cook, a South Florida guy, but he's fumbling the ball way too much. Even on his long, after fumbling a couple times, and he fumbled once, and he got fortunate that it came hopped right back to him. The defense, Leslie Frazier isn't there, and they've also been hit by the injury bug. And then that defense isn't as feared as you would have the past several seasons. So now that at 5-5, they're already firing their offensive coordinator. That's not the sign of a team that's going somewhere in the second half of the year.
Yeah, I agree. How about this from Pete's takes? And talking to Dana, Pete's take says if we get home field advantage, it's Super Bowl time. You go first. What do you think?
Well, based on what the Dolphins have done at home, they've won 16 of their last 18 at home, 4-0 this year. What is it? You have the number under Mike McDaniel, 10-2.
10-2.
10-2 since Mike McDaniel took over his home at home. Now it won't be as hot late in the year, but you also avoid those cold weather cities. But right now the Dolphins are slotted in at number 4. Now a lot of other teams have lost, so you're able to maybe get over Jacksonville. Kansas City has a tiebreaker against the Dolphins, so that's one thing you have to look at, where they kind of have their path. They control their own destiny, as they say. They control their own fate as far as the number 1 seed. So maybe if you could get into that 2 or 3, then you face not so tough opponent that first week, either that 6 or 7 seed. Doesn't look like it's going to be a very difficult team, and you play them at home, and then where you could possibly, if you're number 2, then you're also at home for the next divisional game, and you have to maybe face a trip to Arrowhead delayed, where the Tyreek Hill's return wasn't to Arrowhead. It was in Frankfurt, Germany. Maybe that ends up being an AFC championship game. That would be a lovely storyline for the NFL and for Hard Knocks as well.
Yeah. So that would, oh man, could you imagine? That would just break the HBO meter right there. Tyreek going back there for a playoff game. Furones, what do you think about this defense? We talked a little bit about Ramsey and Howard being together. Nick Needham is back. Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb seem to be rounding into their own. You got Sealer and Christian Wilkins in the middle. Vic Fangio pulling the strings. Like, what is the potential for this defense? Could they be let's say in the last 8 regular season games, could they be a top 5 defense for that stretch?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to point to is, that's the potential that we expected from this defense with everyone together. Then second practice of training camp, now Jalen Ramsey's down. Okay, so now you're reverting back to the days where Xavier Howard, who is now older and has been dealing with groin injuries, now he's your number 1 corner again. And then now you're relying on Cater Kohu, who's been proven very reliable as an undrafted guy from last season. Well, now he's your number 2. And then even a game where Xavier Howard is out, Jalen Ramsey still hasn't been there. Cater Kohu is your number 1 against A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and the Eagles. So now you're at a point where you have Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard for the first time together. Cater Kohu is your slot corner, where after you've even had to have him as number 1, and you have Nick Needham back to boot. So now he's in your dime packages. You don't have to play Eli Apple and rely on him there were a couple of games where he was in on virtually every defensive snap and giving up catches to Devontae Parker and missing tackles. And now you don't have to worry about that unless someone goes down again. So at the heart of what I see this defense doing is that on the back end, it's going to be so solid with all those guys together, combined with the Javon Holland and Deshaun Elliott back there as the safeties, and with David Long in the linebacker core coming along, and the pass rush getting going, marrying the pass rush with the coverage. Right. Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb off the edge, and Christian Wilkins. Although he won't say he's motivated because of the contract talks, he knows that what he needs to do is get sacks, and he is. I think he already passed his career high in sacks for a season, so that's halfway through a season. He is motivated to get to the quarterback, which he would be otherwise, but he is certainly doing it at a high level with the interior pass rush. You're getting it off the edge and the coverage back there, improving linebacker play. So I really see it all maybe really coming together under Fangio, which it sort of took its time a little bit early on in the season, the Chargers game, the Bills game, but I think now it really is coming together.
Yeah, I think it is too. And so we're probably going to go a little bit long today. I try to wrap this up in a tight 45, but we got a couple of questions. You know what? One week I'm going to do a show just taking questions from fans in the chat because this chat it's just burning up. I love going to this chat. So here's Miami Kid J. Welcome. Here's a question for us from Miami Kid J. Are you guys confident that this team can go into a tough environment and win a game on the road? I don't. Miami Kid J, that is one of my prime concerns. I hope that they are. I picked them to beat Buffalo, to beat Philly, and to beat KC because I kept thinking this team is going to turn the corner. They have not turned that corner yet. So I'm not confident. I'm hopeful and optimistic, but no, I'm not confident. Furones, your thoughts?
Yeah, that's the only way to look at it because you haven't seen it yet. So there is no precedent for it right now at this moment. Yeah, and I had them winning the Buffalo game. I originally was thinking to start the year I would pick them to lose that game, but then I got motivated with the 70-20 the week before. I said this team is just too on fire to lose. Then I missed out on that one. I did have them losing the Philly game. I knew that would be tough with them coming off a loss. The Chiefs, I had them winning based on the neutral site not being a road game. Also, the acclimation over there. I felt like those were intangibles that would get them over the hump. But that first half really just set them back too far, and then the comeback hopes fell short. So, but they were in that game as well. I even put out a tweet. Well, okay, so Dolphins on the road against these perceived strong teams. I say perceived because of Buffalo now. 28-point loss, 14-point loss against Philly, 7-point loss against Kansas City. Now we're working our way. The next time they face a similar challenge, they play to a tie. Then they're going to win by 7 after that. When you get to the playoffs, they're going to get 14-point wins and a 28-point win. It's just following the trend. So they're going to be blowing teams out by the time they get through to the Super Bowl.
I love it, man. So you're talking about a blowout in the Super Bowl, right?
Based on the way they continue to improve from how bad it was, 28-point loss to you cut that in half to 14, you cut it in half to 7. Then by the next time you're just going to play even. It's going to end in a tie, whether it's the Baltimore game or are we calling? Dallas isn't on the road, so maybe not that one, but. Yeah, then they're going to the 3, whether it's 4 games in the playoffs they have to win, assuming the Chiefs hold on to the number 1 seed, then, yeah, they're just going to keep on that trajectory, as you see.
Pete's takes like that tie prediction. People are laughing. That's good. Hey, real quick here, Lo-Fi Anime NFT. Welcome to the chat, and they contribute amazing what a good coach can do, starting to put a D together in Big We Trust. And yeah, right. I mean, I think because the offense now knows it doesn't have to work as hard, and the special teams, they don't have to work as hard. It's like having that one player that makes life easier, whether it's a running back or a cornerback or a linebacker or a quarterback, right? I mean. Vic with the defense, and I'm not saying that it's Vic, I'm saying it's the defense. It kind of makes life easier and kind of boosts the whole team, right?
Yeah. When you talk about any Dolphins deep D, I'm also thinking of this podcast right here with Chris Perkins, Dolphins Deep Dive, which is a tremendous program that everyone's enjoying.
There we go, baby. I like that. Hey, and real quick, let's wrap up the good stories going on with the Dolphins. I like the offensive line making things work because we knew they were a weakness coming in. They've had all these injuries, and yet somehow you still had the number 1 offense. You were number 1 rushing offense for a while, number 1 scoring offense, number 1 passing offense. So I think that's a good story. Tyreek's pursuit of 2,000 yards, and then, of course, Tua's MVP candidacy, which I guess took a step back in the last game, but it could be easily revamped, especially with a strong finish. So I just wanted to get those in as good stories that are going on. And so, Furones, here we go, baby. It is prediction time. Dolphins are hosting the Las Vegas Raiders. And by the way, I saw in the chat Pete's Takes. So Pete's Takes says the Raiders under this new coach, Antonio Pierce, 2-0, and his defensive mind. Do you think he tries to jam and disrupt timing like others have? I don't even have us beating the Raiders because of that.
Ooh.
I'll say this. I talked to the receivers 2 games ago, about what teams are doing to Tyreek. Oh, it was before the New England game. And in that New England game, the first game, you remember that Belichick played the 3-high safety, something that we hadn't seen before. And in the second half, they had Christian Gonzalez, the rookie, who is now on IR, shadowing Tyreek. And I asked the receivers, like, had you guys seen this? And they said, no, but we see different things on Tyreek that sometimes they shadow him just in situations like 3rd and 5 or something like that, depending on field position, depending on personnel. So my question to you is, they don't have to jam Tyreek and Jalen to disrupt timing. We know that they're a good pass rushing unit, right? They can get to the quarterback. Crosby. Is there anything you're particularly worried about with the Raiders under Antonio Pierce, whether it's the high from being 2-0 or that defense or the Dolphins over, anything at all that you're worried about?
Yeah, maybe the pass rush.
Yeah.
You have Max Crosby there. Yep. I mean, the Dolphins in the games that they have lost, the pass protection hasn't been there. Really, the only 3 games where the pass protection wasn't strong and holding up, it was those 3 losses against the Bills, against the Eagles, 4 sacks in each of those games. He got hit 9 times against Buffalo, and then also Kansas City. They got after Tua a little bit as well and rushed him, disrupted the timing of the offense, which the timing is so much of this offense. So that could be a factor, especially if you don't end up with Robert Hunt and you're going down a little bit deeper into your depth there. Although Teron Armstead is there in the lineup, and Austin Jackson has been solid, and so is Connor Williams when he's been healthy, and he should be even healthier now coming off the bye. But yeah, they're 2-0 under Antonio Pierce, but that's against the Giants and Jets. I think. And also at home, I think coming down to Miami Gardens where the Dolphins are 4-0 this year, and we've mentioned their records at home. They've won 16 of their last 18 overall, dating back to 2021. 10-point favorites. I don't see the Dolphins blowing this one at home. So and in a game where the CBS crew is Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, and Melanie Collins. The Dolphins are. I have to go back into the stats, but their point differential, their winning margin is tremendous in all these games. If you start it from the point of last year's Baltimore game when they started the comeback, it's like 100 something to very little. So the Dolphins, and that includes the 70-20 win against the Broncos. So I know our Steve Svekis has the stat at the ready, and he'll be including it in our things we learned with the updated numbers with however many points the Dolphins win by, as I'm going to predict shortly here.
That's right. That's the only way that I know that is because Sebekis puts it in the things we learned. So, yeah, you're exactly right. So, all right. So, prediction time. I have got Dolphins 34, Raiders 17. As you say, Dolphins 4-0 at home this year, 10-2 at home under Mike McDaniel. Defense is coming around. Achane should play. Armstead is out there. Secondary coming around. Pass rush showing its teeth. So I'm going for Dolphins 34-17. Furones, who you got?
Yeah, very similar prediction. I'll say 31-16. The Raiders defense has shown some things, but also offensively, I don't fear them too much. Although, I mean, Devontae Adams, you have to have a plan for him. But, yeah, I see it 31-16 for a lot of the reasons that you and I have already mentioned. And especially the CBS crew that is calling the game, because the Dolphins always show up when Kevin Harlan is on the call.
There we go. Hat tip to our Steve Sebekis for keeping us up with that. Real quick from the chat, we were talking about offensive line. Grandizer 12 asked, any status on how Alama Uluave and Ryan Hayes are developing? Are they close to being called up? No, I thought I thought Uluave. I thought he had a chance when Connor Williams was out, but they switched Liam Eichenberg to center, and they were looking at Lester Cotton and Robert Jones. And then Ryan Hayes, he's a tackle. Although they've had him, I don't know if I can say that. They've had him at guard a little bit. I just said it. But anyways, but I
Well,
don't
he's a
think
versatile offensive lineman. He's a versatile offensive lineman.
there we go. He's got versatility. They cross train him. I'll say that. So yeah. So that's that. Let's see. Pretty Boy says he has Dolphins 42-10. Let's see here. Miami Kid Jay, when Tua's first read is taken away, is deer in the headlights. Look at his numbers against top defenses. It's night and day. Your thoughts on that, Furones? Is Tua like a deer in the headlights against top defenses when his first read is taken away?
I want to say that, and there are examples. There's some of that, but there are examples of him going through a progression, finding the next read, and the Dolphins being successful. I mean, when you disrupt the timing, then yeah, that disrupts some of the things like him being able to throw with the accuracy and anticipation that he likes to. But yeah, he's also shown flashes of being able to hit that second and third read, going through a progression. So looking one way, then finding a receiver the other way. That's where the pass protection comes into play, because he's also known for getting the ball out quickly if that first read is there. Once you get into the deeper second counts in the pocket, then that's where maybe things become more difficult for him.
All right, so that wraps it up. Look, I'm gonna talk to our producer Sean Pitts. We're gonna do just a chat show one time where we just take questions out of the chat. I think that would be a lot of fun. This chat is gaining momentum, man. I like this. So that's it for this week's Dolphins Deep Dive. Join us next week. It's gonna be me and Dave Hyde, SunSentinel.com, Tuesday at noon. We'll see you then.